Thank you. Next up, we've got Josh, who hails from Connecticut, and MBA 2017, our first 2017 speaker of the season. And something you might not know about Josh, or maybe you do if you hang with him a lot, he does CrossFit, and he's pretty yoked. But one time he went to a Brazilian steakhouse, and in observance with his paleo diet of a lot of meat, went to a churrasco, had something like gained 6 pounds worth of body weight from his consumption of meat and water at a Brazilian restaurant. Introducing Josh Chen.
Hey guys, so I'm Josh, and I think most of you probably don't know me, so a little bit about myself. Been pretty quiet most of my life, been pretty good at being really reserved, and so much so that the most common complaint amongst my ex-girlfriends is that I don't talk about my feelings enough, because I don't have any. Can't talk about them if I don't have any feelings. Along the way, I've also managed to kind of turn into more of a skeptical person than maybe some people realize. And I remember when I was in middle school, I was in London with my family, and we were on vacation. And it was New Year's Eve, and we were in the subway station. And it was getting pretty crowded, getting to be maybe 8, 9, 10 o'clock. And the train pulls up to the station, doors open, and everybody's pushing to get on the train. And the first guy on the train takes a step in, he drops his phone, and he's holding everybody back, trying to make sure his phone doesn't get trampled. And so everybody's still pushing in, staring at his phone. Eventually he picks it up. And what nobody else really noticed at the time was, while everybody was pushing in, trying to get on the train, somebody reached into my dad's pocket and grabbed his wallet. And we didn't really realize that until that guy who dropped his phone got off the same train right before the doors closed. And in hindsight, that was like a flawless con. I mean, if you ever need to pick somebody's pocket, that's probably a really good way to do it. Not that you should, because that's terrible. So I don't know if that was necessarily like the catalyst to my kind of questioning people's motives, but that is a memory that I, for whatever reason, have retained for a long time. So fast forward to 2013. I was working in Washington, D.C. and roll into the office around 8 o'clock, and the way our cubicles were set up, they were up against this balcony that looked out into an atrium, kind of like if you're out there looking down onto the cafeteria area from the second floor. And we were used to that space being used for events like retirement ceremonies and stuff like that, so it was usually pretty noisy. There were maintenance guys that were setting up folding tables. So you can imagine, if you're folding up some of these tables or chairs, it can get pretty loud if you're slamming them together, kind of like a loud cracking sound. So that morning, I got in, and first thing I said to our intern, Ben, who was sitting next to me, was, man, these guys are being particularly obnoxious today. It was like a little bit louder than it needed to be as far as like folding these tables and stuff together go. And so, no big deal. Open up Outlook, look at some emails. By emails, I mean look at Gmail. A couple minutes go by, still slamming those tables, and Ben walks over there, looks over the balcony, and says, "That's weird, there's nobody down there." And I think, that's odd, I don't know where else that sound could come from. So anyways, we go back, doing our thing for a couple more minutes, and we still hear this sound. It's probably closer to like a loud whip snapping crack sound. And I made this joke to Ben, and I said, "I'm waiting to hear people start screaming because of these gunshots." And so do some more emails, and eventually some people start walking around saying, "Hey, there's people walking outside," and don't know what's going on. And then somebody pulls a fire alarm. And so still nobody really knows what's going on. And we start filing outside because we're like, oh, all right, fire alarm's going off. We should probably head on outside. So those cracks were gunshots. They came from an assault rifle that somebody had brought into the building that morning, and 12 people were killed. And that was a tough time for a lot of the people in our office. And we got back together a couple days later to kind of regroup, be somewhere that was supportive, somewhere we could talk about, how we were feeling, what was going on in our heads. And one of my coworkers told us a story that was particularly memorable. She said a couple of weeks earlier she had gotten to the elevator, and there's one other person in that elevator. And she looked at this guy, and there was clearly something not right. And so she asked, "Are you okay?" And the guy didn't say anything. He just completely ignored her, which is kind of odd. And that was the guy. He was the one who brought that assault rifle in. And my coworker, when she was telling the story, was clearly pretty upset, and I think she felt a lot of guilt. But what really sat with me was the fact that she even asked, right? The fact that she had the courage to approach this complete stranger and ask, are you doing okay? Because I know in that situation, I would be like, oh, this guy's really fucked up. I'm going to look at my phone and see what's going on here. And so that's something I think about a lot. I think about what would be different if maybe more people had asked him that question. But on the flip side, every conversation has two sides. And what if people were more receptive to complete strangers that came up and said hi and asked how you were doing? I think a lot about when I'm walking down the street and somebody comes up and says, "Hey, how are you? How's your day going?" My first thought is, I don't know you. I don't want to buy anything from you. I don't want to give you any money. Please leave me alone. And that's kind of like my default mindset. And so thinking about this story kind of makes me wonder, what if we changed our mindset? What if instead of holding all these preconceived notions about what people's motives are and what they're out to do, we go into every interaction with a completely open mind? I think, worst case scenario, you're walking down the street, somebody says hi, you go in with a completely open mind, you're like, "Hey, how's it going?" And they're like, "Hey, give me some money." All right, not great scenario, but you can say, decline, say, "I don't want to give you any money, sorry, have a nice day." You can go on with the rest of your life, and you can tell me I'm completely wrong, which is totally fine. But I think best case scenario, just think about how incredible of interaction you could have with everybody else that you encounter if you go into every conversation you have without trying to predict, what they're going to do or say or what their agenda is. And that maybe, you could get a lot more out of that conversation, and they could get a lot more out of that conversation if we kind of just try to leave all those preconceived notions behind and consider, a world where we could just go in with a free mind. So something to consider. Thanks.